The Chicago Bears get embarrassed by the Detroit Lions, and I could sit here and tell you every single reason why this loss sucked and why the Bears looked bad, but it'd be a lot of the same reasons as previous videos that we've talked about for most of this season. So instead, why not find the positive? I'm here to tell you why this weekend was actually a good weekend for the Chicago Bears, despite the embarrassing loss to the Lions, and it starts right now. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talk. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. So here's the thing, right? There's a lot that we could be irritated by this weekend. The Bears did not play well, but that does not mean that all is lost, right, with this team. I mean, honestly, worst week we've seen out of them. And now you're basically looking forward to the offseason. I think you saw in the play of this team in that Detroit game that they're also in the same mindset as us, that they're looking to the offseason. And in looking to the offseason, this weekend went the best that the Chicago Bears could have hoped for. The Bears end up with a loss. Well, I guess not the best, right? Houston didn't end up getting a win, but the Bears end up with a loss to the Detroit Lions, which keeps you in the proper draft positioning. Now, here's the thing. Does that mean that that's where we want to be? That's how we want to go out? No, none of that, right? I'm not saying that it's okay if the Bears lost in the manner they did, but at this point, right, with how the play calling is going, with how the coaching is going, with how the team is clearly showing, to me, what I see, a lack of effort at times to just get to that next level. All you can hope for is the draft positioning with this team. And so, with that being said, you have to have something worth either acquiring or worth trading for when that draft does get here. And I think that we saw that go the Chicago Bears way with a lot of the bowl games that we saw this weekend, right? You saw Ohio State come out, C.J. Stroud, I believe, making his stake and claim to be the possible #1 overall pick. But the biggest thing is, right, there's so many teams right now that have a lot of quarterback controversy going on that you might be able to open up to some of these trade markets like we talked about with the possibility of getting Devontae Adams, right? Derek Carr has completely scrubbed the Raiders from all of his social media. He's probably a foregone conclusion to be somewhere else next season. Where that's going to be interesting to see. But Derek Carr being out of there means now there's another potential trade partner for the Chicago Bears to be looking at. And hey, C.J. Stroud just balled out. Even though in a losing effort, right, the losing effort to me did not fall at his feet. And now you have the opportunity to say, hey, y'all saw what CJ did, and you see what we've got here with Justin, and you guys wish you had Justin. Many teams around the NFL have wished that they had made the decision to go get Justin Fields, especially with how far he fell in the draft. Hey, don't miss it again. CJ's the next best thing. CJ's next up. CJ's going to be like that. That's the opportunity that the Bears have here now to with the bowl season being here. It's always interesting to see, right? Like, how is the draft stock going to rise and or fall? And I will say this, right? I think you saw a little bit. It's tough because you have to take in an entire season versus one of the biggest games of the year, right? I think that a lot of the names that we saw this weekend that the Bears potentially could go for, right, they didn't look as good as you might have thought that they would have. I thought Will Anderson Jr. had some nice moments, but he looked a little bit gassed in the game. And I thought Jalen Carter, again, kind of the same thing, right? It wasn't a bad showing by either player. I don't want you guys to think I'm saying that, but I think the thing was that you looked at the bowl games this weekend and you were like, oh, it was nice, but was it second pick in the draft worthy? And for a lot of people, right, this is their first time seeing them. I know for me, this is not my total draft breakdown, my total indictment of these players, because for me, it was my first time really taking a deep look at Jalen Carter and Will Anderson Jr. So for me, I think the big thing is now if you feel like maybe those players aren't the answer at the second pick in the draft, if you feel like those players aren't the answer for the Chicago Bears moving forward, right, do you make that move at the quarterback position? And now, right, maybe the draft capital that you thought might be given up to go get that second pick in the draft is higher now. And I believe if teams want C.J. Stroud, oh, the price went up. And that's the best case scenario for the Bears here, right? Like, the price is going up. I think even with the Raiders, right? The Raiders, what they talked about with the Raiders, hey, we're going to give you guys your franchise quarterback. Yeah, send us Davante Adams, send us the 9th pick in the draft, but I might need some more now. I might need a little bit more. Hey, yesterday's price is not today's price. You want to know why? Because that kid looks a heck of a lot better than many of you thought he was going to look. And I'll say this, looks better than Bryce Young to me. I think he's made a real claim at the potential at first pick in the draft status, and maybe Houston does go with him instead of Bryce Young. But even in that situation, right, there's a lot of teams that are looking to bring in Bryce Young. And so for me, I feel like those are two guys there where you look at them and you say, oh, man, we can really leverage this, right? Bryce Young's already got the notoriety. C.J. Stroud building up the notoriety. We can leverage this for that quarterback position. And heck, don't be surprised if a Matt Duggan sneaks his way into the conversation. I don't think he's going to be top 2 in the draft area. But don't be surprised if you're not in a position right now with the quarterback play that we saw, that even if you move down, right, like say the trade does happen where we end up with Davante Adams and we end up with the 9th pick. Don't be surprised if the Bears don't trade down for even more draft capital because somebody's at 9 and they're like, no, we think Matt Duggan's the next guy. We think that he's the one that's going to be able to get us to that next level. I'm telling you right now, when you get down to it, quarterback is the premium position. And there's going to be teams that are looking for one. I think there's going to be quite a few teams, actually, that are trying to make a pivot off of the quarterback that they might have in place. Detroit might not be right now, right? Like, I know Detroit was a team that we all talked about early on in the season. By the way, I do want to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think that this was a best-case scenario weekend for the Chicago Bears? I do. I feel like, right, like you saw the draft capital rise. You saw some of the players that might be going at that spot. We'll see what the Bears end up doing with it. But on top of all of it, right, like, I feel like there are players that showed out this weekend that might move up in the draft just based on the position that they play, that quarterback position, 100%. I'm not saying that Matt Duggan all of a sudden is a top 5 pick, all of that, right? Like, I think he's a really nice player. I don't know exactly where many of the mocks have him going right now, but for me, there's an opportunity here for the Bears not only to move back once, but to move back twice in the draft because of the emergence of Matt Duggan. Now there's that third quarterback on the board that some teams might say, hey, listen, no, we believe in him. We think that he's going to be a nice quarterback at the NFL level. We like his grit. We like his grind. We like how hard he goes out there and fights. We're going to make that pick at the number 9 spot or whatever it is that the Bears move back to, right? Now you're able to move back again and gain even more draft capital. Now, it might take you out of the top 10, yeah, but at a minimum, you got Davante Adams. If the Raiders deal goes down, right, if that was the deal that the Bears would use, you'd have Davante Adams. Hopefully, you'd have some kind of player out of any of these deals, right? With the second pick in the draft, you should be able to get some kind of player that's going to give you veteran experience on this team that's going to help you, hopefully, offensively. Unless they're just going to give you their entire draft for the next 2 years. But I feel like, right, like this is an opportunity for the Bears to really bolster their team. And this is a draft that the Bears, I mean, you could be talking about this draft as one of those that, like when we what's the best way to say it? You could be talking about this draft as one of those drafts that we look back on and say, this was the draft that shaped the direction of the Chicago Bears. Because I feel like the first draft, right, you had to do so much just to get those picks back. You got some nice foundational pieces in there, right? And you feel like you got some hits on those in those foundational pieces. But this is the time when not only do you have your full slate of picks, you've got money, you've got free agency, you've got so many things that you can look at this offseason and say, hey, this team was rebuilt in this, and the foundation was set in this. I think this is going to be the season more so than Poles' rookie season, that the Bears are going to have that opportunity, and you just got to execute on it, honestly, man. But when I look at this weekend, right, I mean, here's the thing. Does it suck that we lost to Detroit? 100%. Is it what I wanted to see this Bears team do? Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, the worst thing that you could do is Lovie Smith yourself out of a pick that could be a potential pick that helps you the most in the long run. Right now, all of these scenarios are hinged to the fact that the Bears end up with, at a minimum, the second pick in the draft. The third pick in the draft probably isn't getting that done. The fourth or fifth, right? I think the Bears are locked in at least at having a fifth pick in the draft at this point. So they're locked in for the fifth pick at worst. So now you're talking about a team that is locked in for the fifth. The fifth pick in the draft probably isn't getting the same kind of deals done that we're talking about. So you kind of want to stay around this area. I mean, it does go into the question, should Justin play in this final week of the season? That's something that I think is definitely worth asking. Matt Eberflus was talking about it today and basically breaking down what he felt on it. He kind of just gave the well, if Justin's healthy, he can go, but if he's not healthy, he's not going to go, and we're going to do what's best for the Bears, and the Bears had the opportunity. And it was one of those where it was like, you're dancing around this question. I don't expect Justin Fields to play at this point. Because of how you're dancing around this question. But I think the biggest thing here is just don't mess up where you're selecting at. Don't go out there and try to get this moral victory to send us off, because the time for the moral victories is over. Honestly, the time for the moral victories was when you were playing Buffalo. The time for the moral victories is when you were playing Philly, right? Those were the moral victories that you'd have felt good about, right? You get one of those wins. You still have an opportunity at the second pick in the draft at that point. And you're trying to fight your way through it, right? Like, you're trying to finish out this season, but now you're feeling better about your team because you got a win versus a team that you weren't supposed to get a win first. I don't think anybody would feel like, oh, this team's on to the next level if we beat Minnesota coming into this final week. Minnesota keeps beating themselves. Say it with me now. Frauds. And that's really how it's always felt with this team, right? Like, you looked at them and you were like, oh, they got the offense. They finally got all this going. Kirk Cousins is still a question mark, but maybe he's turned a leaf. The leaf is the same leaf, my boy. He has not turned a leaf. Same leaf. So I think that in that situation, right, you go into this last week, you don't play anybody. It better be the Nathan Peterman game. I better be doing draft analysis on players coming into next week. And that needs to be the entire game that we're doing. I don't want to be playing this game of, oh my goodness, like we got to win versus the Vikings. That's a moral win going off into the sunset. At this point, it's not, right? Because you've seen kind of where this Bears team is. You know that they just don't have the talent to compete with other teams right now. The way for you to get that talent is to stay at the second pick in the draft. So hopefully that's something that the Bears can do. Hey, I want to know how you guys feel, man, about this Bears weekend. I know that the loss sucks, but as a whole, how do you feel about how this Bears team played? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. As always, man, it's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again to continue watching our Chicago Bears content. Click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. One love. Peace.